Hello and welcome to the ARCHLine.XP webinar, Essentials of Interior Design. My name is Zoltán Tóth. Over here is our resident architect, as always, Mr. Ilés Paf.
Hi there.
This is the first installment of our 5 webinar series, which this time is going to focus on interior design. Last time when we had the same session on architecture and BIM, we had a lot of good feedback, but the question was obvious: when are we going to look at some interior design related topics? Because the two, sometimes don't overlap. So now's the time for that. We are going to look at all the essentials what ARCHLine.XP offers when it comes to interior design. A couple of things what we are going to talk about. For instance, today we will talk about the basics, how the software handles interior design challenges. We also talk about in later sessions about kitchen design, bathroom design. That's mainly about tiling and quantity takeoffs. We also talk about lighting and rendering and other visual related things. And essentially, we talk about documentation, how to create wall sections, wall elevations, and how to put them all into a documentable format.
Yes.
There might be some of you here for whom ARCHLine is a new topic, so I think we should start a discussion about what ARCHLine.XP really is. I think you have already seen that we call it a 3-in-1 design software. And when we say 3-in-1, it means architecture, interior design, and furniture manufacture. So instead of having different editions of the software, we have one software that does all these 3 things. When we are asked about why we include all 3 in one package, our answer is usually that because professionals sometimes have to work together, or they have to work in other fields as well. So it's essential that everything is supported in one package. As you are going to see later on, our software tries to be very open to other platforms as well. So you can bring in information and you can also create your own customized elements, as we are going to see later on. And you can put your exported files, your documentation into other softwares to be processed. So ARCHLine could be at the receiving end and on the sort of broadcast end of your process. And it's all made to make the communication with your the co-designers and clients better. I think one thing what we could do to start this conversation off is to talk a little bit about what we are going to achieve by the end of these courses. We have quite a few renders here what we can show you, and while the slides are turning, me and Ilés are going to talk about what we are going to see in the next couple of days and weeks.
Yes.
So on the screen what you can see is a couple of renders that are generated from ARCHLine. Obviously this is also applicable to architecture as much as interior design. So what we are hoping to achieve by the end of this course is to talk about what you could do to reach results that are similar to this. What we can see on the screen are partly made by ARCHLINE's interior, integrated render, and also with external third-party rendering engines, right?
Yes, and it's a mixture of interior and exterior design projects and various sizes. As you might already notice that ARCHLine is not limited to a certain style or a certain size of a building or interior. It is used widely for restaurant designs, for whole apartments, even hotels, complete buildings, or just smaller interiors. It really depends on what your purpose and what your client need to be designed. Whichever is your focus, you will find the best tools that you would like to use and to design. And of course, you will be able to communicate with the third-party professionals to either bring in data or export data, which we also partially already covered before. And we will, during this session, we will also talk about these topics.
Yes. One thing that we are always asked when we are having a show like this one, or when we talk about ARCHLine in general, if you need any kind of CAD knowledge or competencies or skills to be able to work with ARCHLine effectively. And when we put together this material that you are going to see, we had the same thought in mind. So obviously ARCHLine uses a lot of CAD conventions, which might be familiar from other CAD software. But this particular session that we are going to show today and the next couple of days and weeks are made in a way that you don't need any kind of CAD skills in advance to be able to work with the software.
It's an advantage if you have, but it's not necessary at all.
So having said that, the first thing that we are going to talk about is actually the user interface. So Ilés is going to guide you through what we see here actually on the software. So what's going on the screen?
The main area occupying the most of the screen is the work area, and this is the by default split view, which we will use a lot during this session. There is not much to learn about it. Instead of just simply using it, what I will teach you how to move around and how to pan and zoom and handle the content. And what we will use a lot today is this little button here at the right bottom corner. This allows you to switch content if you enable 3D and switch to it. If you enable 2D and you switch to it, this is how you can organize your content. Now, in case of 2 drawings, it's not that much of a thing to do, but once you have 4, 5, 10, 12 drawings, it's a very useful thing to help you to always focus on the one drawing that you are looking for.
Imagine having many wall views and elevations
yes.
listed.
Other than that, we will use this ribbon bar a lot at the top. It's very simple to use, very easy to find things. Even if you don't know where to look, you will use this search field to find the command. If you remember after watching this session that there was a tool called, I don't know, tiling, and where that is, you just click there and you just type that. And actually we will use the left hand side a lot. That's about the design center and the properties. You will see them appearing once you select something. The items properties appear and you can change those. Other than that, you can just simply activate the design center at the left bottom corner, and then you can use and search and find objects, doors, all sorts of items. The ARCHLine is directly connecting to services like 3D Warehouse, which we'll also partially cover today as well, and just as in the rest of the session. Today we would like to show you kind of a generic workflow to summarize how you can start with working with ARCHLine. Even if you didn't use any other software, we will use this example in front of us, which is a reception room plus dining combination. We will quickly show you the main steps how to achieve this. And then should you have any questions, there's the question box.
Yes, during the whole duration of the show you are able to ask questions on the right hand side of this window, where you can ask all kinds of questions regarding ARCHLine. At the end we are going to devote some time to talk about these as well, but we are trying our best to create a session which answers all your questions, obviously. So let's see what do we do first. So what's the point that we are trying to achieve here? Imagine that, let's say we have some survey data, we have some generic measurements, but we have to create this space from scratch.
Yeah, well, once you have any sort of input, you will likely start a new project, and then you will either find the so-called predefined spaces that you can use, or you can just rely on your perhaps existing drawing skills. But if not, I will show you now how you can do that. You can quickly sketch the whole drawing. You can quickly sketch the room or the whole building using the wall tools, which is in the building. You should just highlight this and you will find the building tools. When you click on the walls, there is a whole lot of predefined set that you can just quickly pick and use, but later at any time you can also customize them. So it's worth note that the software is coming with pre-default settings for all the items, sometimes 50, 100 settings, but you don't have to stick to those. You can always create your own, and you can always import your own things if that's the type of the item. So actually when you would like to create something like, I don't know, like a 5-meter long wall or something like that, what you will do, you just click somewhere on your drawing, move your mouse perhaps downwards, and you just click and type 5 on your keyboard.
Yes, we are currently in meters, but obviously we can switch this to any other units you want, yes, including feet and inches.
Yes, and it's very important. You don't have to write 5 meter or something. You just type the value. You don't even have to click anywhere. You just click the first point, move the mouse to the correct direction, type 5, and then just hit enter, and then you will have a 5-meter long wall. That's the same if you go to the left and type, I don't know, like 7.16, then that's the second one, and then you just move upwards, and then you just design the following, which is, let's just make it 2 meter long, then it's done. And whenever you hit escape on your keyboard, the software completely terminates the whole tool, and you can select something else.
Okay, what happens on the right hand side? What do we see over there?
On the right hand side, you will always see the 3D continuously developing together with the 2D. Now you have the option to select and change the 3D. So let's say I would like to change the length of this wall. So I change the direction of change, and then I say, okay, now this is 4 meter long. So this will change the 2D back. And once you do the same thing in the 2D, that will also, of course, change the 3D. Selecting things is very simple. You just click on the items, and once you would like to get rid of the selection, you just hit escape. If you would like to select 2 items at a time, you can select the first and then hold Control and click on the other one. And then sometimes when it's in context, you can even change their distance. But other than that, you can just simply use the selection rectangle by just click, drag, and then click and select the whole thing, and then you can get rid of that thing, for example. Let me just undo this step. Undo is just as in other software, it's there at the top of the screen, undo the last step. You can go backwards many steps, but not infinite. Keep that in mind, it's not infinite, the undo stack. It's just a few steps, like 15 or 30. Not that much, so you need to save your project frequently, of course, just as with any other software to keep track of the changes. Now, one other thing here, how to handle the content. First things first, if you would like to zoom in, just move your mouse over the area where you would like to zoom to and scroll up. That's how you zoom into that area. If you zoom out, that's scroll down. Yeah, that's how you zoom out. And if you would like to pan the drawing, you would like to move it around, then you just keep holding the wheel. I mean, you just click with the wheel and keep holding it like just a regular mouse button and move the mouse. That's how you move this content around. And when you release, then it's there. So zoom in, zoom out, and click, drag the mouse wheel. This is how you pan the content.
And what do we do next?
I think I will just quick sketch layout. I have the values in front of me. So I will draw this building using the internal values of these walls, and then we will customize them. Now, once you start working with the software, again, you will select any of these settings. But if you would like to work with different settings, you can always right-click on an item instead of starting the tool. You can right-click there, and you can also set up the properties. This is how you can set the properties in advance. So if now, for example, I would like to create a completely bright white wall, which is inner and external size is also white, then I can just click here, or I can just link them together, not to mention any other changes like the height and everything else,
yeah, that's right.
which you can all change. And from this point on, I will draw completely white walls based on a predefined setting, which I changed. So it's this how flexible you can work with the software. So let's just start, and I think I will start with the same values. I will just click and draw, and I will define 7.16. I go upwards, and this will be 5.8. This will be basically an L-shaped building, a room, what I design now with certain values that I have here. It's just imagine you went over there, you used your laser pointer or whatever you had, maybe perhaps.
So you just made a survey, and then you just enter the numbers by hand, and then you end up with a room shape, which you can customize later on.
Yes, yes.
At this point, what you could also do, in addition to submitting the number, is that you could snap to that wall, which is on south from here. So
if you hover your mouse and keep it over the existing corner and you stay over there, see these green lines appear automatically. That's what you wanted to say, right?
Yes, that's right.
And then you can snap to that point. It's like these are guidelines appearing automatically, and then see there's an intersection. There's no real intersection. There's nothing there, but the software
but it just projects an intersection point, which is. You can
and now I can click.
Yes, you can continue that. But this is a very good solution if you're just planning the space and you don't have exact measurements. You're just doodling around, and this is a very good way to create something.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Okay, so now we have the room shape. What then? So I see that on your floor plan there's some extra thing on.
Yes. What I did now, just to highlight it again, I just click into the 3D and then I enlarge it. And then I can do the same thing just as I can do in 2D, zoom in, zoom out, and click, hold the mouse wheel and pan. And there's one extra thing, of course, is the rotation. For that, I will hold the Shift key and click hold the wheel, just as in case of pan, but in that case, together with Shift, it will rotate the model around that axis where my mouse was actually. So this is how you can rotate this content. So. To go on, I actually have this sort of extension, a very small surrounded area. It's about here. It's for a desk or some commode or some sort of small
So do you modify
furniture.
the existing wall, or do you have to redraw this?
You have several options. First things first, you can always select the existing item and you can move its corner points. You can even insert breakpoints, like an endpoint here, an endpoint over there, and change the whole thing. But actually, for this, there is a dedicated tool. It is called, as you can see, in case of walls, there is a whole bunch of things that you can do with the wall. You can connect them. They are automatically connected. Actually, we don't have to use that now. But there is also something called edit, and there are these things. You can also add wall recess. But in this case, it's actually an extension like this here, an add-on. So I will use this square add-on, and then I can set up its size. I think this size, it's okay what I have here. I can change its size if I measured, I don't know, 0.4 or something else. I can change that and the software will make changes. Sometimes if the value is just too small, then you will see irregular sizes. So actually the software is by default checking it as well. Let's say, okay, this is something that I want, and I say, okay, then see this exclamation mark, when you see it, don't worry. It just means that there is no meaning to do anything with this wall extension here at the empty space inside the room. So you need to hover your mouse over somewhere where it's meaningful, and then when you move your mouse, then you can see where this extension will be. So now actually, if I know the distance, see that little orange dot at the bottom, that's what we call the reference point. When you draw things, you always use reference points or reference sides in case of wall, for example. So when you would like to place it to a certain distance, then this is the orange dot that you can actually set up, and you can say, okay, this is, I don't know, 1 meter or 1 point, in my case it's 1.8, and then enter, and then I have it. So let's say we are done with this. Just quickly sketch bottom plate. There will be the floor. That's the slab tool. It's here, slab. I just use there are several options now. The easiest is the slab by walls in this case, because that allows me to click, select the whole drawing that I already have and hit enter, and then I already have it.
So it's automatically snapped to the bottom of the structure.
Yes, and follows the contour automatically. And then the same way I can add the ceiling. Now let's just keep it simple. It will be a plain auto ceiling, and then I just click here, so it automatically generates the ceiling. So now we have a closed box which we can name as a room, and then we can enter into this room. We can add doors and windows using the door and window tool. Just click on place doors, and then just set up where it is, setting up the opening direction, and we have a door. But actually, this time I will show you another method.
So now I think we are done with the external side of things. So let's take a look inside and see what kind of interior design elements we can add to sort of make this even more elaborate. So, because obviously now that the ceiling is on, we can't really see into the model. So what's the easiest way to edit it internally?
Yes, so even though today and during this whole session we are focusing on the interior aspect of things, obviously you need to build up at least the basic version of that building as accurate as just possible. Sometimes if you have, I think it's worth mentioning here that ARCHLine is a BIM software. So if you work together with a professional who is working in another BIM software, it's the easiest way to get their existing drawing, if there's any, is IFC. IFC file is containing the building itself. So what you do now might not be necessary if you can get the model in IFC, because in that case you already have all the walls, the openings and everything, and then you can focus on the interior. So now let's just use this Roommaker to dress this building up, and the same way, as you could see, you just click again inside, and the software navigates onto this wall, which is always highlighted here for better understanding. And with these two buttons here, you can just move to the right, move to the left, navigate from wall to wall, and decide where you would like to add, I don't know, for example, a door, a window treatment. These are the possibilities here inside the Roommaker. Now, Roommaker is not giving you all the possibilities that ARCHLine can give you, and it's intentional. Roommaker is for quick sketch. It's for quick dress up, and all the rest that you cannot find here or you might expect to be able to do are here on the ribbon bar in building, in interior and in everywhere else. So this is a limited tool set for fast design, and then you can further develop it to anything else.
So what can you do at this point?
I think I will just quickly navigate to this wall here at the right hand side, and I will just quickly add a door. And even I won't use these doors because in my case I would like to use something like a sliding door. So I go to the libraries and I find the sliding doors and I select, for example, this one. And then if I like its values, its width and height, and if that's correct, I think the width should be 2.9, for example, or 2.8. And the height is, I believe it's correct. So I just click create, so the software creates this panel here. If I would like to add something similar to another wall, I just navigate to that wall and I just add the same thing over here with another creation. Now the thing here is that it is by default in the center of the wall, but I can easily change its distance from the right. Let's just make it 0.3.
So it's very straightforward because you see it from frontally, so left and right has relevance here.
Yes, yes. And the same thing you can do with windows. So now if I would like to add windows here, I'm not working with the door. So from this page, I move to the following one. See, it's zooming in a little bit, and then you can select what type of window you would like to work with and then what size you would like to use. I think this case, it should be around a meter or so. And the height is, I believe this is correct. So I just would like to point out that you can fully customize it. And then if you cannot find something in the libraries of the software is actually coming with a pretty large library of doors and windows and everything else, but it's not unlimited. So it's always a limited folder that you can install with the software, and then you can connect to online libraries and download things. Or ARCHLine also supports creating your own items. Now, I think enough talking about that. I just quickly add this window, and I would like to show you how to add another one and another one to the left and to the right. In that case, you can just use this create new, and then you can prepare. You can even change the settings if you would like to use a different material, but this time we just keep the same settings and create, and then create another one and create. So the software is always filling up the remaining spaces, and if there's nothing left, then you cannot create more, but you can actually move the existing ones. So you can say, okay, this should be, I believe, 0.45 from the right hand side, update, so now it moves.
So it snaps
and
together.
Then if you click on the other one, then you can just do the same thing, 0.45 with this one. You can either click here or click into another value, so the software automatically updates this. So this is how you can add windows. And if you would like to add window treatment, that's the next step. You can decide in front of which window, what type of curtain, with what sort of curtain fabric you would like to add, and then create, and then the software creates. Now I believe it's too short, so I just change its settings. Its bottom height should be 2 centimeters from the floor, update, so now it's there. I can even make it a little bit more wavy. I can make it closed or a little bit more open to the side, tied to the side. This is how I can customize. And if I would like to do the same thing on the right hand side, I just click in front of this window and I add another one. But I think this time I will just use a different style like this here, and I just change the same settings. Bottom height should be 0.02. Click create, and then now I have that. I think that's just too tiny, so let's just close it a little bit more, and that's it.
Perfect. So at this point, you don't even have to care that much about it, because the way it looks like, it doesn't really, it's not going to look exactly like that, because by rendering and by the lighting effects, it's going to be different. But what you could do at this point as well is to change its fabric or customize how it looks like. But at this point, we are satisfied with how this turns out.
Yes, that's right. In the meantime, I'm opening a website because we would like to show you something else as well.
Exactly. So as Ilya showed you, you are able to add different kind of textures to certain elements. Now, as we talked about in the case of doors and windows where you can import external items, this applies to textures and fabrics as well. So there are certain websites on which you can find millions of different textures and fabrics, and you are able to, if you can find them online, that's the general rule of thumb, and if there's no imprint or watermark on it, you are able to bring that into the software. Not only for that, but you can size it, so it's not going to be just an endlessly looped random shape. You can size it, making sure that the pattern is actually how it should look like. So now Ilyes looked for some kind of curtain fabric, which he found in an image format, and he just right-clicks.
Yeah, if you right-click there and you click copy image, or just simply copy, it really depends on the browser. So I'm not even opening it. I already did
Bottom line is that you have to copy this into the software. You don't have to manually download it and insert it or import it somehow.
You just right-click copy, and then you go into the software, and then here's the material library for the fabrics, for the curtains. But that's just a limited range. It's just like 10 materials out of the possibilities that ARCHLine offers, like hundreds inside sometimes. But that's also still limited. So if you would like to create something new, then you will go with this here. This is the create new material. And in case of new material, you can set up all sorts of things. We will cover this later in a later session. But for now, the most important thing is that once you made a copy of a pattern from a website, then now you can paste it, and then the software will set it up as a new material pattern. And I can say, okay, this is some sort of curtain fabric 01, for example. And then I can save it into my materials. Let's say these are something, let's just put it into my libraries, and in the curtain fabrics library. And then I can set up all the other things like reflection, transparency, and so on. Now I just keep it on default.
And you can set these up later as well.
And one another important thing before we move on is that this material dialog has several pages, and here are the physical properties. You can set up the size of this pattern from here to here, from here to here. So if you find any sort of information about the pattern that you use, or you know what the size is, then this is where you can set it up. And that's how the software will understand the real world size and then apply it accordingly to the
So once I hit
surface.
OK, it's going to be available for my further use. So I could add this texture to anything I want in this.
Yes. So this curtain fabric is not only available for this representation, which automatically appears here, but you can use it for any other purposes as well. So this is already part of the fabric or material library in the software. Let's move on and let's just add a few more details. Like, for example, there is also something called the plates and switches, the electrical accessory tool, which allows you again to set up the wall where you would like to add a plate switch or a double switch or something like that. And then you can just set up the space from the left hand side. I think this should be 0.4 or less, and click create. So the software creates it. It's 3D. And it will automatically also create the 2D symbol as well. Now, obviously this is linked to a wall lamp. I just jumped 2 steps. I will explain those as well. I can set up a wall lamp. Let's just say I would like to go with this one. And I just would like to set it up a meter from the left-hand side, create. And well, it's on the floor. I did not set it up.
Elevate that pretty
So
easily.
I just elevate it. So if I would like to prepare another one, I just use the same methodology. I just click there, create a new one, set up the settings. Remember, it should not be on the floor. And now this time it should be from 1 meter from the right hand side. Let's create, so now it's there. These are already lighting. The software comes with predefined shipped lamps that are just by default work when you do the render, but you can also create your own lamps, downloading objects or even creating your own.
Actually, there's going to be one dedicated session for lamps and visuals, so we are not going to talk about that too much right here, but we are going to return to this matter.
Yes, today I will only add a few more ceiling lamps, but as you can see there is a dedicated ceiling lamp tool, but I won't even use that. I will use another method, which is a very convenient way to distribute lamps, not only one lamp, but like a series of lamps. This is also something very useful. And about decoration, this is the other thing that I skipped. You can set up cornice skirting boards by simply selecting the type. This is a cornice, an intermediate decoration profile, or the bottom line skirting board. You can select the the cross section. You can set up the size. You can set up the material that you would like to use. Let's just make it dark brown this time, and click create, and the software automatically creates that. And the same thing you can create at the top of the ceiling, again setting up the size, setting up the material. I think this should be something like a white, bright white pattern, and let's just click create, and the software automatically generates that.
Perfect.
So these are all built in the software by default tools, and these are generating the 3D, and they are also actually designing the 2D. Once we are here in this isolated view, the software actually fully developed the whole content.
Yeah, so the point is that you're not generating another version of your project. It's actually everything updates automatically, and you have one central 3D model from
Yes.
from where all views are generated.
We have also built-in tools for posters and framed images. This is the tool here, and actually you will find it here in case of the objects, which is giving you even more possibilities. This is again a limited range of what you can do with the image. You can select the pattern of the image, the painting itself, which is again, the software is shipped with predefined images, but you can go online, download something, or you can even use your own photograph, cut that out. That's supported by the software inside, and then you can just decide if you would like to have frame, the size, and everything else. And once you click create, the software generates it. Now my base offset was 2 meters, so that's why it's that much tall. So I just change it. You can even use these to just visually move them to the right or to the left or up and down.
Perfect. So this was the basic 3D modeling for interior design, but let's see what happens with visuals. Was there anything else you wanted to show?
Just one more thing before we move on. The same way, just as any other things, you can recolor the walls, recolor the floor, again, using either built-in patterns, built-in colors, or your own. The same way here you can create your own, or you can just go into the libraries and find a material that you already have in the software. If you don't know where it is, but you do know that there is a material called white, you just type white and then hit enter, and the software will select
what do
collect
the
all the whites.
orange triangles mean here? Because I see that sometimes the textures are duplicated. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's they're actually not duplicated in a meaning that this here without the triangle is the original material, and the one with the triangle, that means it's a copy of that one used in this in this project. So once you select a pattern, the ARCHLine automatically makes a copy inside the project. So even if you change it or you accidentally break it, then no problem.
Yes,
the original material will be still there, and you can just still start with that. So this is the distinction about the currently used and the original version of that material. Okay, so this is how you can set up wall, and so this is the slab material,
yes.
the floor material, and this here, this is of the wall pattern, wall material. In the same way, you can just simply select another color, or if you would like to color the whole thing with the same color, you just select one and then click all walls, and as you can see, if you click on other surfaces, then the software fully recolor the whole thing when you enable this option here.
Perfect. Now let's talk about some visual elements, because I think essentially what we want to see is stunning visuals. Not renders yet, but let's see how we can handle the visual side of things.
The visuals are actually two sort of things. One I will show you now by simply just closing this whole thing up and setting up. First things first, for the visual we need a perspective. So that's the first step that you need to set up. For that you activate the 3D, enlarge the 3D, and then this is what we call an axonometric view. However close you zoom in, you won't ever enter this interior because it's not a perspective view. It's an isometric, axonometric view, more likely for engineering purposes or like documentation purposes. But if you would like to set up a perspective, you should just click on this little perspective eye, which brings up the perspective tool, and this tells you where you are in the 3D space and where you look to. So if you just move this, perhaps there are the windows. I would like to look at the windows, and then I click and drag myself. That's the blue dot, that's me. I click and drag myself inside the interior. I can see that result right away. If I like it, I can even add it to my saved views. I can actually set up 2 different views, or 3 or 4 or as many as I want, and I can just add them, keep them adding to my list. And if I don't like view 0 or view 1 as a name, because later when I have 10, it's really difficult to distinguish which is which, I can just double click here and I can just give it the proper name and then hit OK, and then I can use it. Setting up views is also useful if you are not that much if you're a beginner, so if you're a beginner, it's easier to set up views than to navigate around with the rotation tool. Sometimes you lose yourself. You just turn things all upside down. No problem.
So how do I reset back to
You
this?
just go there back. You already have a saved view. You just select one and you go there. So this is one purpose, and the other purpose is that these views, the same views, you can continuously use in communication and during work. So even when I'm working with a intermediate size model, I just quickly set up several views, and then I think it's a useful trick to know there is this here. With this one, you can navigate from one view to another. See, I'm just jumping from one view to another.
It's easier that way.
This is used based on that setting that I already created.
I also know that the page up, page down keys would do the same tricks.
On your keyboard, you all have a page up and a page down button, and that's doing the same. Page up is going to the next, page down going to the previous.
How about because we see that we have nice curtains and we have the windows, but we have no light representation or shadows whatsoever. So do we have light enabled here? I mean, what if the sunlight shines into the room?
Actually, this depends on the daytime setting and the geolocation. Geolocation is something that you can set up multiple places in the software, but the easiest to remember is, I think, in File, BIM. And there is the project parameters. The location of the building is a project parameter. You can find it here, project location. We already covered that in another session.
Yes.
You can check that. I think we will copy that link below us. And then you will learn how to set up the geolocation. Now, this geolocation is someplace on Earth, somewhere near to us now. So we will just use that value. And then once you already have that set up, and the north direction, which is actually represented also here at the bottom of the screen, then you can use something called the shadow simulation. Now, if you turn on shadow simulation, the software automatically turns on the sunlight, which is not meaning that if I would render without this tool, if I would render an image, I would still see shading. But many times during my work, I just don't want to see the whole thing dark as it is now. But now, because I'm about to set up the sunlight, I'm just about to move this slider. This is the date slider. I can find a better date during this whole year. And then I can just move the time slider to find a better time of this specific day during the year. And this way I can easily set up something that I better like.
That's very good for visualization purposes as well. And at rendering, this will come in handy. Obviously, you can manually turn on and off the shadows during this view as well. If you just want to take a look, then you can just go here and turn the shadows on. But that's usually, like you said, it's not needed all the time. So that might be not that relevant. One thing that we missed, and I had no clear idea on where to include that, but I think when we talked about flooring, that would have been a great place. We talked about external libraries from where you can bring in items. Now, the issue with these libraries might be is that they are not manufactural items. For that reason, we have these 5 sources from where you can bring in, as opposed to, you probably know that we connect to the 3D warehouse, and you can also bring in images to represent textures, but these might not be 100% accurate or actual elements. But we do have these 5 object libraries for which we connect. Actually, one of them is the odd one out, the showroom, because that's our built-in, that's something that we developed where actual manufactural items can be found. These can be floorboards, sanitary ware. We are going to actually illustrate.
I think I just quickly jump in to show this is how it looks like. Later, I think tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, we will actually deep dive into this storage.
Yes, we'll talk about all this in detail. What I would like to hear more about now is what happens after that. So how do we get documentation out of this model? So
before that, I think it's worth at least mention one thing. So all of you there trying the software, you can at least start with the 3D warehouse. If you go there, it's pretty much similar to all the rest. It's a place where you can search for objects. And then this is a free library, like all the rest. Everything is free in terms of the libraries that you find built in the MIM libraries and the 3D warehouse, where you can find objects that other people update. Sometimes manufacturers, sometimes enthusiasts. It really depends. But you can find many things. I don't want to say everything because that's just simply not true. But really many things. As you can find, you can see trademarks and all sorts of other things. Let's just keep it simple for now. I just would like to import, for example, an armchair. So I will just look for an armchair and I hit enter. And then when I find something that I like, let's say, I think I like this here. So I click on that, and I can find a larger image of it. If I like that, I can download it, or if I don't like that, then I can just go back and search for another one, and then I can just keep searching and keep finding things that I would like to use in my project. If I like this one, I can click on download. I can now we are using the 2018 version of ARCHLine, so we can download the SketchUp 2018 version. Right. So I just click on download, and then I go and find the item on my floor. So that's how I just place it here. I just quickly place another version here, so you will learn how to rotate these things later. But actually, if you would like to rotate during placement, you can use these tools here. This allows to rotate 90 degrees to the right. See, now it's facing us. If you rotate further, then you can just set another copy like this one here. Mm-hmm. So what happens if I already have that over there? I can just select it and I can use the rotate. So this is what happens in the 3D. Or I can just do the same in 2D. I just click here and I select this chair here. I just click on rotate, either freely or 90 degrees. And then if it's too close to the wall, I just click here. This is the movement marker. These are markers here. I can click on the movement marker and I click on move and move it someplace else. And if I like this place better, then I use it here. I think I will just quickly download two more things, desk and something on top of the desk, so you will see how to work with that. Now actually, even not noticing, I actually turn to full screen. This is also something that you can do if you click on the top of the window here on this little square. This way you can make it full screen. This does not mean that your 2D drawing is not existing anymore. Of course it's existing, but it's in the background. So you can also prefer this workflow and work with full screen. So I just quickly go there and let's just see and download coffee table. And I think I will just download any of these. I just go with this Hokkaido coffee table. I like this a lot. So I just click download. So I just repeat myself. And yeah, we'll actually already have that.
I've already tried this one, making sure it works. But the idea is the same. You can just rotate it and place it. You know, the software recognizes the surfaces, so you don't have to worry about having your downloaded item sank into this slab or anything like that.
Yes, and one thing to mention here is that if you download something from the Google 3D warehouse and it's not with the proper size or not with the proper setting or it's containing too much, you can fix it. We have videos about that. So sometimes you will find something that is a little bit more or a little bit less than what you want to use, but you can actually do that. I think I will just download something else like a vase or something like that, and I will just put that on top of the desk. I think I will go with this one here, and if I like that, then I just click on download and download this one, and then I can just click on the surface. I actually, see, this is what I talked about. This is a large item, so you can just
it wasn't made in a one-to-one scale. Yes. That's for sure.
Yes. So you can just now I will skip it, but we have a video about that, how you can fix that. So this is how you can quickly set this up, and now I think we can quickly add a few more details like dimensions and other things. Okay, but so before that, I load further version of this.
Let's load another version of this very same project, something more advanced where we have more things to see. So when it comes to documentation, we can actually take several paths. There are going to be some very simple measurements, but we also need to talk about wall views as well, because that's something that interior designers must do. Also, quantity takeoff, I think, is something that we, just looking at the questions that are coming in, that's something that we have to deal with as well, but we will talk about that when we get to the questions. Okay, so this is a more advanced part of the project that we have worked on so far. So now what do? Do we work on the 3D or should we focus on the 2D view?
Now for the 2D documentation, I will use, of course, this here. So I just enlarge the 2D and I will add details to this using the dimension tools. The dimension tools are, again, a whole palette of things that you can use, a lot of things measuring angles and elevations and things like that. I will actually create an elevation drawing also. But just to keep it simple, if you already have a 2D drawing, then I think the starter tool that you will use many times is this here, the building, and it's called the all walls or the walls tool. You have these options, and anytime you select one, you can add it to this list, which is a list of execution commands, and then you can just click OK, select this drawing, hit enter. You just move the mouse to set up where the first dimension should be, and once that's done, the software is trying to recognize as much as possible on this
as much as
drawing.
predefined, right? Because in the dialog before, you define what you
Yes.
want to measure and what not to.
Yes,
to
yes.
measure.
Based on my selection, it will recognize as much as possible, and then I can either add a few more things. Like for example, here I would like to measure this. I can add it over there, or I can just go and use the length dimension, align dimension to measure, for example, the width of this item over there. So it really depends from that point on. I can also add something called the room and area tool. This allows us to click inside the room and set up the name for it. Sorry for the name. It's an English. It's a Hungarian name. So I just quickly change it to
something else. But you can always. The point here is that what we are trying to show is that this tool automatically recognizes the room boundaries, and then you can add customized labels to them, in addition to some extra data fields. One thing what you see under dining and living is the material of the slab itself.
Yes. Yes.
Now,
yes.
one thing what I know that interior designers would look for is a texturized floor plan. So how do we go about adding one?
That's actually something that you can do from this list here. This is the header of the 2D content. And the header of the 2D content comes with several things that you can rename the drawing, you can magnify the window and so on, but this is the thing that we will use, the colored floor plan. You click here and then you can set up where actually this is something that intersects the model half and then sets up the camera from top and makes a photo and puts that under your drawing, and this is why you need to set up the cutting elevation. So let's say, okay, that's it. It's okay. It's nice because we will have the walls and the openings cut half, and that's what we get. So this is also something that if you like, you can use it. If you don't like it, because for that purpose that you would like to use it, it's not necessary, then you can come back here and just click on the tool again, and this will remove it completely.
But this is very good for documentation. You can rip this as an image and add it to your layout.
Yes.
What about calculations? Sorry, before we talk
Elevations.
about that, actually elevations is what I wanted to cover
Yes.
first, because I think when we looked at how the colored floor plans are made, I think that's another way of section generation. So I think it's something similar in this case. So how do we go about?
Yeah, elevation is it's like the section tool for architects. This allows you to set up a wall view. You actually click on a wall and then you set up the view direction to that wall and the depth of that view direction, and then the software will assume that, okay, now this tiny part is the one because I have clicked here, but I can click on the side and I can just make it larger to cover the whole section here. And then when I say, okay, let's just generate that, and the software prepares that, shows me, is it okay to use this? And if I say yes, then now the target drawing is my floor plan, but I can also save it on my computer as an image file, and I can send it to my clients. But now I just click OK. So I will place it next to my drawing, and I can then just measure it. But before I do that, I can just add, annotations and dimensions. But before I do that, I would like to show you another wall elevation, which is the drawing. So I would like to show you what's the difference between image and drawing, because people tend to use sometimes both of them and combining them. So it actually starts the same way. You have a depth, and then actually you can set up the width of that wall view, and then you can just click someplace, and then the software creates this here.
How do we combine the two?
It's very simple. You just click here and you click on the move from. Sorry for that. I click here, move from this point to this point, so I can actually combine these two together.
And now you are able to measure on it, right? So
yes.
annotate it somehow.
Not only now. Before that, I could measure one and the other as well, but now that I have combined them, I can measure them together by using the dimension elevational section, and then I just click here, set up 0. And I just measure the bottom of this here, the top of this here, the bottom of the ceiling, for example, and the top of this item here. So I can add all sort of information that's necessary, and then at the end I can print it to another drawing.
We'll talk about these documentation things in detail at the last session of our webinar series, but let's now talk about Excels and takeoffs. But I think that's something that we have to look at in detail.
Yeah. These are here actually, all the documentation tools are here, and even something that is part of the documentation, but that usually happens at the beginning of the design process, which we are not covering now, but it's also important that you can actually create mood boards as well. So you can set up a mood board just as you would set up a plot layout, and you can just collect all the photographs and materials and things like that. But if you would like to, after finishing the content, you would like to create a quantity takeoff, you just click here, you click on Excel list, and then this is an interior calculation for an interior design, so I just click here, and then you can set up what sort of things that you would like to list. Perhaps you don't want to list the lamps and the electric accessories, but all the rest you would like to, then you can just disable them, and when you click OK, then you can set up the place of this Excel file, click Save, and then the software will automatically open it if you have Microsoft Excel installed on your computer, or even OpenOffice that will also open this document, and then you can go from page to page to check what was listed, sometimes even with images, names, and tiny thumbnails.
Yes,
now,
just
this
to
is
give you an
interior
reminder.
design.
One question from my part. Imagine that you did this and you look at this documentation maybe days or weeks later, and you find these IDs, but you are not really sure what that particular chair is or where you can find it in the floor plan. So what would be the way to match these IDs, what we can see on the left-hand side, with certain items that you can see in the floor plan as well?
Yeah, so for example, now I have this Hokkaido table, which obviously now we remember where we placed,
yes, we know
but it's
where
a
it is, but it's good
large project, so we don't remember where this was. So we have an ID. This is 2628. 2628 is an ID for the software that you can actually use to go in your design and use this. This is what we call the selection menu. If you click there, then the software will bring up the selection menu. Sorry, I just misclicked someplace. So you just click here. It's the selection menu. You go and find by properties and ID, and you just type, it was 2628, and enter, and then the software will zoom to that item.
Perfect.
So it's much easier to prove your point and much easier to remember things after a week or so when you are filled with other projects already.
That's right. So that was actually the gist of what we wanted to show you during this first session. This is really just the basics and essentials on how to go about, how to start building up your interior design. What Ilish is doing now is that just as a glimpse at other shows that we are going to have, we are going to now generate a render, and meanwhile I'll look at the questions that we have here.
Yes.
So here's an interesting one. I think we partly answered this. Can you create an interior finishes / fitting and fixture schedule per room?
It's not per room, it's per project. But it's something that, as you can see, you can easily find by IDs. Let me just quickly open that up again, so we can show what was the content of this here. So it's the molding, the lighting list, and everything else. It's collected like this, and when you go and open up the list, the quantity takeoff again, Excel list. And these are also options that you can turn on. So if you would like to also add BIM parameters because you already added something, or it's a downloaded object from the BIMobjects.com, then also all those information will be as well listed. So it's not per room, it's per drawing actually. It's per level, because it will list all these things that we see now on this level.
Okay, another question I think we should talk about is what kind of rendering engines we support. Can we just bring up the renders that we did? So one thing about our software, I think we have already touched upon these in the beginning, is that this is our integrated rendering engine. So this is what comes with ARCHLine. Now, obviously we have other software products that we support. So if you export this into a certain file format, you are able to read this file into another rendering engine. Maybe you already have some kind of software for that purpose. What software products do we support?
We also support, by default, directly we support Atlantis, Cinema 4D, Thea, Indigo. These are also all things that you can find in the file export and export. And besides all the rest that you can export here, you can find, of course, SKP, OBJ, FBX, which is very useful if you would like to work with a third-party renderer which is not supported directly by ARCHLine, because in that case, SKP, OBJ, and FBX will be likely very, very useful. But if you would like to directly export to ARCHLine, the Cinema 4D, Indigo, or all the rest, then you can find those here, and then you can just export the current model that you have.
Perfect. So as a closing remark, let's look at the render, what we did so far. I just love seeing this because I think this looks very good, especially compared to that. Obviously, this is an advanced stage of this project, but basically within minutes we can build up something from which we can generate an image that we can show to our clients, and essentially communicating our ideas is
we will discuss later how you can make your renders even more realistic, how to change the materials, how to add for example LED light strips, glowing texts, and things like this. This will come in a later session.
So what's coming up next is the next webinar that we are going to have in this topic. That's going to be the second session. It's this Thursday on the 12th of April at the same time, 3 p.m. Central European time, and that is going to be about bathroom design. We'll talk about tiling, especially tiling styles. That's very exciting because you can just predefine a style that you can use on all the walls. It's a great topic. Also, how to use sanitary ware, especially when it comes to our built-in and external object libraries.
Yes.
And also quantity takeoffs, which is even more relevant when it comes to tiling.
Yeah, because at the end, ARCHLine can tell you how many tiles you need to cover.
That's right.
Those
which is
surfaces.
very good because you probably don't want to buy too much or too little. So it always goes down to saving time and saving money.
Yes.
I would like to thank you for tuning in. I hope it was a useful show for you. See you on Thursday, and I would like to thank you for your attendance, and we speak soon.
Goodbye.